The Neural Harvest Chapter 1. Wrong planet, damn it, all to hell, Evan muttered, squinting at the incomprehensible alien script on his transit ticket. The terminal's harsh lighting amplified his headache and sour mood. This couldn't be right. He'd been sent to the wrong planet, not just the wrong city or continent, but an entirely different world on the galactic fringe. The Transit Authority agent, a bored-looking four-armed creature, had already made clear there would be no immediate return. Flights. Next transport isn't for 3 standard weeks. Paperwork error. Very unfortunate. Now Evan stood alone in the dusty streets of what barely qualified as a settlement. His engineering credentials were useless without proper documentation. The town consisted of drab utilitarian structures that seemed to hunch against the purple-tinged sky like they were embarrassed to exist. Perfect, he said to the empty street, his muscular frame tense with frustration as he ran a hand through his blondish-brown hair. The sleek grey-blue fabric of his engineer's uniform, usually a point of pride, now felt like a target announcing lost human to anyone who cared to look. His company would be furious. The Proxima Engineering Corps expected punctuality, and he'd just missed the start date of a major contract. Evan tapped his comm unit, preparing to explain the situation to his supervisor for the 3rd time today. Before he could connect, a small movement caught his eye. In the shadow between 2 buildings, something shifted. A child stepped hesitantly into the light. At least, Evan thought it was a child about the size of a human 5-year-old, with delicate lilac skin and short snow-white hair that seemed to glow against the dull backdrop. The little alien's large grey eyes were wide with fear, and her light beige clothing was torn and filthy. Evan lowered his comm unit. "Hey there," he said, keeping his voice gentle. "Are you lost?" The child took a tentative step toward him. Then another. Evan crouched down to appear less intimidating, though his broad-shouldered frame still dwarfed the small figure. "Sir," the little alien whispered, her voice trembling, "I feel something strange on my back." A chill ran through Evan despite the planet's arid heat. "Can I take a look?" he asked carefully. The child nodded and turned around. What Evan saw made his stomach clench. Beneath the torn fabric of her shirt were deep wounds, crusted with dried blood in a sickly purplish hue. They weren't fresh, but they clearly hadn't been treated properly. Holy, Evan caught himself. "I mean, don't worry. It's nothing terrible, but we should see a doctor right away, okay?" The little girl turned back to face him, a faint smile touching her lips. "Yes," she said simply. Evan quickly tapped his comm unit, sending a brief message to his employers explaining he'd be further delayed. Then he carefully lifted the child, settling her on his back where she'd put no pressure on her wounds. "What's your name?" he asked as he began walking toward what he hoped was the medical district. "Lena," she said softly, her small hands gripping his shoulders. "I'm Evan. Nice to meet you, Lena. Let's get you fixed up." As he strode through the dusty streets, Evan couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just bad luck. The ticketing error, ending up in this forgotten corner of space. Meeting this injured child, it felt like more than coincidence. Chapter 2. The abandoned facility nearest medical facility was a 20-minute walk. according to his nav system. As Evan picked up his pace, he felt Lena's breath against his neck, shallow but steady. "Hang in there, kiddo," he murmured. "We'll get you help soon." The buildings around them grew slightly less shabby as they approached what seemed to be the town center. A few aliens of various species gave them curious glances, but offered no assistance. Evan kept his eyes forward, focused on the blinking indicator on his nav system that promised medical care ahead. What he didn't know was how much more complicated his life was about to become, and that the small being on his back would be just the beginning of a journey that would change everything he thought he knew about himself and the universe. When the medical facility came into view, a squat, hexagonal building with faded blue markings. Evan's relief was short-lived. "That can't be right," he muttered, approaching the main entrance. The doors were partially open, and the interior lights flickered erratically. No staff moved about. Inside, no patients waited in the reception area. Lena's small fingers tightened on his shoulders. "It looks empty," she whispered. "Don't worry," Evan said, though worry was exactly what he was doing. "Let's check it out." The facility's entrance hall smelled of disinfectant and something else, abandonment. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light from the malfunctioning overhead panels. A reception desk stood unmanned, data pads scattered across its surface as if the staff had left in a hurry. "Hello," Evan called out, his voice echoing through the empty corridors. "Anyone here? We need medical assistance." Silence answered him, broken only by the soft hum of equipment running on auxiliary power. Lena trembled against his back. "It's okay," he assured her, though he wasn't convinced himself. "Let's see if we can find someone." Evan moved deeper into the facility, passing examination rooms with doors ajar and equipment left running. It was as if everyone had suddenly vanished. Mid-shift, "This place gives me the creeps," he muttered, then felt Lena's grip tighten again. "But I'm sure there's a simple explanation," he added quickly. A crash from somewhere deeper in the facility made them both jump. Evan froze, listening intently. Another sound followed, the unmistakable clatter of medical instruments. "Someone's here," he whispered to Lena. "Hold tight." He followed the sounds to a laboratory at the end of a dimly lit corridor. The door was partially open, and through the gap, Evan could see movement, someone in medical attire working frantically at a diagnostic console. "Excuse me," Evan called, pushing the door open wider. "We need help." The figure whirled around, brandishing what looked like a surgical laser. "Stop right there." Evan raised his free hand in surrender, the other still supporting Lena. "Oh, easy. We're just looking for medical help." The laser didn't waver. Its wielder was a humanoid alien female with striking features, deep amber skin that seemed to shimmer under the laboratory lights, short-cropped hair in a rich burgundy shade, and piercing silver eyes currently narrowed in suspicion. Her medical uniform clung to a figure that Evan might have appreciated under less threatening circumstances. "This facility is under quarantine," she said, her voice sharp but melodic. "How did you get past the security protocols?" "There weren't any," Evan replied, confused. "The front door was open. Look, I'm not here to cause trouble. This child needs medical attention. The doctor's silver eyes flicked to Lena, and something in her expression shifted. "Put her down on that examination table," she ordered, lowering the laser but not putting it aside. Slowly, Evan complied, gently setting Lena face down on the indicated surface. The little girl whimpered as he pulled away the torn fabric to reveal her wounds. The doctor's professional demeanor took over instantly. She set down the laser and moved to examine Lena, her hands now gentle as they probed the injuries. "These are extraction marks," she said, her voice hardening. "Who did this to her?" "I have no idea," Evan answered honestly. "I just found her in the street. I'm not even supposed to be on this planet transport era." The doctor's eyes met his, searching for deception. "You expect me to believe you just happened upon a child with illegal neural harvesting wounds?" Neural harvesting? Evan felt sick. "What the hell is that? Don't play dumb with me, human," she snapped, reaching for a nearby comm unit. "These are precise incisions used to extract neural tissue for the black market. Highly illegal. Highly profitable. The harvesters usually take everything, leaving nothing behind. This child shouldn't be alive. Look, Dr. Nari. Dr. Nari. I'm Evan Wallace. I'm an engineer with Proxima Cores. I was supposed to be on Centauri Prime starting a new contract, but somehow ended up here instead. I literally just met Lena less than an hour ago when she approached me in the street." Dr. Nari's expression remained skeptical, but she turned her attention back to Lena's wounds. "These need treatment immediately. The tissue is already showing signs of rejection." She moved with practiced efficiency, gathering supplies from nearby cabinets. "Make yourself useful. There's a portable diagnostic scanner on that shelf. Bring it here." Evan retrieved the device, watching as Dr. Nari began cleaning Lena's wounds. The little girl remained silent, only occasionally flinching. "Where is everyone else?" Evan asked, handing over the scanner. "This place looks abandoned." Dr. Nari's mouth tightened. "They left. When the outbreak started, most of the staff evacuated. I stayed to monitor the quarantine protocols." "Outbreak of what?" "Nothing that concerns you," she said curtly. "What concerns me is how this child ended up with these injuries and why you're really here." Evan sighed in frustration. "I told you the truth. I'm just trying to help her." Dr. Nari's eyes softened slightly as she looked at Lena. "Well, you did the right thing bringing her here. These wounds would have become infected within days." Chapter 3. The Nexus Viruses She Worked. Evan noticed the laboratory around them, sophisticated equipment running on emergency power, research samples carefully preserved, and what looked like the beginnings of a makeshift living space in one corner. "You've been living here," he realized aloud, "alone." Dr. Nari didn't look up from her work. Someone had to maintain the quarantine. The planetary authorities abandoned this settlement weeks ago. That explains the ghost town feel. Evan murmured. He watched her hands move with precision over Lena's wounds, applying some kind of regenerative gel that seemed to immediately soothe the angry tissue. Despite her suspicion and the laser she'd threatened him with, Evan couldn't help but admire Dr. Nari's dedication and, if he was being completely honest with himself, other qualities as well. The regenerative treatment needs time to work, Dr. Norrie said, breaking into his thoughts. She'll need to stay here overnight for observation. I'll stay with her, Evan said immediately. Dr. Norrie raised an eyebrow. Will you? And why would a stranger be so concerned? Because she asked for my help. Evan replied simply, and because I'm not the kind of person who walks away from a child in need. Something flickered in Dr. Norrie's expression. Respect, perhaps, or at least a lessening of suspicion. Fine, she said after a moment, but I'll be watching you, Engineer Wallace. And if I find out you had anything to do with her injuries. She left the threat unspoken. But Evan got the message clearly. Understood, Doctor, he said with a slight smile. I'd expect nothing less. Midnight came and went in the abandoned medical facility. Evan had fashioned a makeshift bed from examination cushions in the corner of the lab. But sleep eluded him. Across the room, Dr. Norrie monitored Lena's vital signs. Her amber skin bathed in the soft blue glow of medical displays. You should rest, Evan said, breaking the silence that had stretched between them for hours. I can watch her for a while. Dr. Norrie glanced up, silver eyes reflecting the monitor's light. I'm fine. My species requires less sleep than humans. Is that so, Evan? Propped himself up on one elbow. What species is that, exactly? Vidian, she replied after a moment's hesitation. We're not common in this sector. That explains why I've never met one before. Evan smiled. I would have remembered. The corner of Dr. Norrie's mouth twitched upward before she caught herself. Flirting during a medical emergency. Engineer Wallace, how very human of you. Just making conversation, Evan said innocently. And please, call me Evan. Before she could respond, Lena stirred on the examination table, a soft moan escaping. Her lips. Dr. Norrie was at her side instantly, scanner in hand. Her temperature is rising, she muttered, concern etching lines between her brows. And there's increased neural activity in the damaged tissue. Evan joined her, alarmed by the change in Lena's condition. The child's lilac skin had taken on a grayish tinge, and a sheen of sweat glistened on her forehead. What's happening to her? He asked. Dr. Norrie's fingers flew over the diagnostic console. I'm not sure. This reaction isn't typical for neural extraction wounds. She frowned at the readings. Wait, there's something else in her system. Lena's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glassy. It's coming back, she whispered, the strange feeling. Where, Lena? Evan asked gently, taking her small hand in his. On your back again. The child shook her head weakly. Inside my head now. Like buzzing insects. Dr. Norrie's expression darkened. She pulled Evan aside, lowering her voice. These symptoms, they're consistent with the early stages of the Nexus virus. The quarantine you mentioned, Evan realized. That's what it's for. She nodded grimly. It started 3 months ago. The virus affects neural tissue, causing hallucinations, then seizures, and eventually, she trailed off. Deaf, Evan asked, though he already dreaded the answer. Not exactly. The infected become different, aggressive. Their neural pathways reconfigure. She glanced at Lena. But I've never seen it manifest this quickly before. Could it be related to her injuries? Dr. Norrie's eyes widened. The neural harvesting. Of course, they weren't just taking tissue. They were collecting infected samples. Her voice hardened. Those bastards are weaponizing the virus. Lena whimpered again, her small body beginning to tremble. Dr. Norrie rushed back to her side, administering a stabilizing agent through an injector. "Will that help?" Evan asked, watching the child's tremors slowly subside. "Temporarily. It's not a cure." Dr. Norrie ran a hand through her burgundy hair, a gesture of frustration that seemed startlingly human. "I've been working on one, but without knowing exactly how the virus was engineered. Evan's eyes narrowed. "You're saying this isn't natural?" The Nexus virus appeared to suddenly spread to precisely. She shook her head. "Someone created this." Chapter 4. The infected hours later. As the first hints of dawn touched the facility's windows, a heavy thud reverberated through the empty corridors. "What was that?" Evan asked, his hand instinctively moving to Lena's shoulder protectively. Dr. Norrie's eyes darted to a security monitor on the wall. The night vision display showed several figures gathered outside the main entrance, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. "Infected," she said grimly, rushing to a supply cabinet. "They've never approached the facility before. Something's drawing them here." Another impact shook the doors, louder this time. Evan glanced at Lena, whose small body had begun to pulse with an eerie blue-white light. "It's her, isn't it?" he said. "They can sense her somehow." Dr. Norrie nodded, pulling out what looked like a modified pulse rifle. "The virus creates a hive-like neural connection between the infected. If Lena's entering a new phase of infection, they might be responding to her signal." A crash echoed from the direction of the main entrance. The infected had broken through the first set of doors. "We need to barricade ourselves in," Evan said, scanning the laboratory. His engineer's mind was already calculating, assessing, planning. "How much time do we have?" "Minutes, maybe less." Dr. Norrie checked her weapon. "There are 3 security doors between the main entrance and this lab. Each will slow them down, but they won't hold forever." Working together, they fortified their position. As the sounds of the infected grew closer, Evan couldn't help but notice the determined set of Dr. Norrie's jaw, the fierce protectiveness in her silver eyes when she looked at Lena. Despite the danger, or perhaps because of it, he felt an unexpected connection forming between them. The final security door's alarm sounded, then died. "They're in the corridor," Dr. Norrie said, positioning herself between the door and Lena's bed. "Get ready." The first impact against the lab door made them both jump. The barricade held, but a second hit followed immediately, then a third, through a small gap. Evan caught glimpses of their attackers' humanoid figures with grey mottled skin and eyes that glowed with the same blue-white light emanating from Lena's wounds. "They're all the same species," he realized aloud. "Vidians." "Yes," Dr. Norrie confirmed grimly. "My people were the first infected. The virus seems specifically engineered for our neurophysiology." As the infected broke through, Lena suddenly sat upright on the examination table, her eyes wide open and glowing. "They want me," she said, her childish voice overlaid with an eerie harmonic. "They can feel what's happening to me." "What is the virus doing?" Dr. Norrie asked urgently. Changing me, the child replied. Making me better. They want to be better, too. And in that moment, everything changed. Epilogue. New beginnings after the chaos had settled and the cure had been distributed. Evan found himself standing in Dr. Norrie's newly established research center. The settlement was slowly coming back to life. Ships arriving daily with medical personnel and supplies. So, Dr. Norrie said, approaching him with a data pad in hand. I've been authorized to establish a permanent research facility here. We'll be studying the long-term effects of the virus and developing preventative measures. She paused, her silver eyes meeting his. I could use a talented engineer on my team. Are you offering me a job, Dr. Norrie? Evan asked with a smile. I'm offering you a reason to stay. She replied softly, for Lena, and perhaps for other reasons as well. The air between them charged with unspoken possibilities. Evan reached out, gently tucking a strand of burgundy hair behind her ear. I think I'd like that very much, Farah. Her name on his lips seemed to break the last barrier between them. She leaned forward, closing the distance. Are you going to be my new parents? A sleepy voice asked. They broke apart to find Lena watching them with knowing grey eyes, now returned to their natural color, with just the faintest hint of luminescence. At their centers, let's start with friends, Farah suggested gently, and see where the journey takes us. Lena nodded, satisfied. I knew you were special when I found you, she said to Evan. That's why I told you about the strange feeling on my back, and I'm very glad you did, Evan replied, his hand finding Farah's and squeezing gently outside. The first true light of dawn broke over the settlement. The quarantine signals were being lifted, and life would return to this place different, perhaps, but renewed. For Evan, what had begun as a disastrous travel mishap had transformed into something unexpected and precious. A new purpose, a new home, and the promise of a future he could never have imagined when he first set foot on this distant world, all because a small, brave girl had trusted him enough to say, Sir, I feel something strange on my back.